Please welcome to the stage Norbert Ordog.
Hey everyone, thanks for coming to my talk. Imagine selling the best milkshakes. You spend months searching for an ideal combination of juicy, sweet strawberries, and delicious creamy milk. You've hired a great designer to craft a sleek logo and engaging marketing materials. Now, your milkshakes have just one problem. 2/3 of your customers are unable to digest milk, and therefore they cannot drink your milkshakes. Now, this might sound crazy, but it may well be the state of our e-commerce apps in the near future. The world of e-commerce is quickly changing. Whereas 10 years ago, it was mostly the domain of the English-speaking world. Today, 58% of all e-commerce sales are done in countries where English is not spoken. And in the next 5 years, this number will likely exceed 65%. And interestingly, most of this growth will come from countries like China or Mexico, where only a small part of the population can speak English. And this means that 2/3 of merchants who will need our apps may be unable to use them for one simple reason: they will not understand them. But this poses a unique opportunity. By going multilingual, we're not just opening our apps to thousands of new potential merchants. The advantage of these markets is that the local competition is not yet very strong. And this makes it easier and less expensive to promote our apps using strategies like content or performance marketing. And in Shopify, our apps can get listed in the new country-specific app collections in the Shopify App Store. By entering these markets early, we can establish a strong foothold for our apps. And so today, I would like to share with you our experiences in making our invoicing app, Sufio, multilingual. Our main office is located in Bratislava, a city right on the border of 3 countries with 3 very different languages. In fact, if I go running in the morning before work, I often end my run in a different country. So being multilingual comes in handy just to find my way back home. And because of this background, we always knew we want to offer our app in different languages. And so today, Sufio can create documents and send emails in over 30 different languages. And just a few months ago, we've made our app fully multilingual and launched German and French versions of the app. But let's start from the beginning. The very first thing we do before translating to a new language is a market research. We look at our own user base, identifying countries which have seen an uptick in new installations. We also look at Shopify and its growth in different countries over time, and which languages these online stores use. Now, this is a vital stage of our preparation, allowing us to target our translation and content marketing efforts. And also, by entering these markets early, we might be one of the first apps that offers a meaningful solution. Once we have identified some interesting countries, we look at their unique local customs and requirements. So, in our case, these are local accounting requirements. If your app handles shipping or fulfillment, it might be support for local shipping or payment methods. We also use the Shopify Experts Directory to determine the number of local partners and experts in each country, and look for those who might help us to better understand the local market. So, for example, we have worked closely with a Dubai-based agency, Creative 971, to make sure that our Arabic invoices are compliant with the VAT legislation in the United Arab Emirates. It's also a good idea to leverage the knowledge of local Shopify teams. The help and the context that they can provide can be truly invaluable. In our case, the great guys in the Shopify India team has helped us to make sure that our invoicing app is fully compliant with the Indian GST legislation when it was introduced back in 2017. Right? Once you have determined that your app might be a good fit for a local market, it's time to look at translation and localization. Now, translation should be carefully planned because it has its drawbacks and challenges. Every language version you support will slow down the app development process because every new piece of in-app content has to be translated before a new version of an app can be released. If you are not doing your translations in-house, look for translators with whom you can work on a long-term basis. This will ensure that your translations are consistent and there are no differences in translating different parts of the app or your documentation. Also, your translators should be readily available, even when you need to translate just a couple of sentences, like when releasing a new feature in your app. Look for translators who have good domain knowledge of e-commerce and the area your app focuses on. In our case, this means that we work with translators who understand the local accounting legislation and know how certain terms need to be translated on our invoices. It's also important to make your translations as consistent with Shopify as possible. Certain words or phrases might be translated differently. And in such cases, it's always good to check how Shopify has translated these words and use the same translations in your app. This will make sure that your users are not confused when switching between the Shopify admin and your app. All right. Let's now look at translating the user interface. Your UI should be flexible enough to adapt content of variable lengths. Words in some languages might be longer than their English counterparts. And some languages, like German, they often compound multiple words into a single long one. This makes it impossible to display them over multiple lines. In fact, if I can recommend you to pick one language to support first in your app, it would be German. Because if you can fit German words into your user interface, it's flexible enough to fit any language. You should also consider supporting languages written from right to left, like Arabic, Farsi, or Hebrew. There are thousands of Shopify merchants in countries where these languages are spoken, but only a handful of apps that support them. And this, again, is a great opportunity to reach to these customers in these new emerging markets. And the way we have implemented support for right-to-left languages in our app is by using a simple tweak. Instead of hard-coding values in our style sheets, we use properties instead. And this enables us to automatically generate both left-to-right and right-to-left versions of our style sheets. And our app can automatically display documents in our user interface in both types of languages. If your app uses different font families, for example, you allow your users to customize your email or pop-up templates, pick fonts that include an extended set of Latin characters. These characters are often letters with additional glyphs or accents that are used by many European languages. This will ensure that there are no letters that fall back to the default font and that your app can correctly display content in languages like Slovak, Turkish, Finnish, or even Vietnamese. If your app supports languages like Arabic, Chinese, or Hebrew, Chinese or Japanese, um, you should use different font families for these languages as well. Ideally, all Asian languages should have their visual equivalents in their Latin counterparts. And this will make sure that your templates are consistent across all the languages that your app supports. And also your Asian users can fully utilize the different types of typography that your app offers. Let's now look at the difference between translation and localization. So countries that share the same language might often use different ways to display dates, addresses, or numbers. For example, Spain and Mexico use the same language, Spanish, but they display currencies and amounts in a very different way. Now, your app should automatically display these values in the correct format. Let's now look at two other important areas of a multilingual app, and that's content marketing and customer support. You should start with translating your documentation and your most popular blog posts into local languages. If your target audience only speaks Spanish, then having a documentation in English, however helpful or engaging, isn't going to get you far or create a great first impression. Again, if possible, try to work with one translator. The goal is to make your app and your documentation as consistent as possible. And working with a single translator will help guard you against differences in terminology or phrasing. A well-translated documentation can be also very helpful for the customer support you offer. While you will most likely have to expand your team to offer support in different languages, a good documentation can reduce the number of tickets in the first place, but also help your new colleagues to provide a great, consistent support while they get up to speed with your app. You should also research and publish content that's useful to local merchants. In our case, these are articles that help local merchants how to set up invoicing and taxes in their local country. And I would recommend you to publish such content in both English and local languages. This will make sure that you have all your bases covered, because some users might be still searching the web in English. Such country-specific content can be an important part of your content marketing strategy. In most cases, there will be very, very few articles already published on these topics. So your content may rank high in search engines and possibly can get you a lot of free organic traffic to your website. And again, reach to local Shopify partners and agencies to understand the local market and the unique customs and requirements. Besides helping you to identify which topics are important for local merchants, they can also help you to promote your content once it has been published. Shopify expansion into new markets gives us a great opportunity to reach new customers. So a few months ago, we have launched German and French versions of our invoicing app, Sufio. And from the very first day, we have seen German and French merchants using our app in these two new languages. And today, almost 20% of new installations coming from Shopify are done in either French or German. And we believe this number will grow over time as we add support for more languages. So let's sum it up. Do the groundwork. Be led by the data when deciding which languages you should support in your app. Second, build long-term relationship with your translators. Find those who have good domain knowledge and commit to them. And third, get to know the neighborhood. Work with local Shopify community to understand the local market and its unique challenges and opportunities. If you want to learn more on how to make your app multilingual, a good place to start is obviously the Shopify developer documentation. You can also visit sufio.com/unite, where we analyze how the Shopify community has grown truly global over the last couple of years. Or feel free to get in touch with me by email. By going multilingual, we're opening our apps to thousands of new merchants who would be unable to use us otherwise. And this will in turn enable the entire Shopify community to expand into new markets and grow truly global. E-commerce moves beyond the English-speaking world. Let's join the movement. Thank you. Yeah, sure. All right, so let's answer the questions now. How do you handle support in different languages? So we're quite lucky because we already had folks in the team who knew these languages, these two new languages that we support at the moment. We have a guy who actually grew up in Brussels, so he knows French quite well. And because we are so close to Austria, many folks in our team know German. So we were actually able to provide the customer support in German and French without actually expanding our team. And that's the reason why we chose these two languages. Now, looking forward, we will have to carefully consider, because for all other languages, we will actually need to expand our team. I assume Japanese will not be a language we will support anytime soon, but you know, we have a small Japanese community in Bratislava. All right, so next question. Do you find that merchants require support in their local languages as well? If so, how do you handle that? I believe you should. If your app is fully localized, then you probably should provide the customer support in local languages. I think there might be like a period where you will simply, you know, do the support in English. But I think over time, it's always great to have someone in the team who knows the local language, not just for the customer support, but for all the other things, all the content marketing, all the other activities that you will have to do for the market. So I think if you decide that you want to support a certain language, it's definitely worth it to expand your team and have a native speaker, or at least someone who knows the language on a very good level in your team. Does Sufio support multiple languages by the same merchant? And if so, have you run into challenges with that? Not sure. Like, we do allow basically different users within the same store to use different languages, if that answers that question. They can also basically, the way we do it is that every time we have a user coming from Shopify, because we use the Shopify OAuth, we actually understand which language they use in Shopify, and we automatically display the UI in that language. There's an option in their user profile to override that language and basically switch to any language they support, they prefer. And in that case, we'll just use that language. By default, we actually look at which language they use in Shopify and automatically use that language. So different users can actually have different languages within the same store. How much does it cost to translate app? That's a good question. Again, depending if you have your probably translators in-house or if you are working with external one. We are translating our content to more than these two languages because we now cover, I think, the content that talks about setting up taxes and invoices. We have it maybe like 20 plus countries. So we are actually translating that content, and we are looking at some companies that provide these translations. Now, I'm probably not able to tell you like the price, but usually it's like maybe like few hundreds for a longer article. Again, what you should probably do is if it's like really important content, you should have a translator and who has a good domain knowledge and another one who's doing the proofreading. If you are just translating like a very popular blog post, then maybe just having like one single translator is enough. There's no need to really like super proofread the article. But there are great services I can share with you after the talk that we actually use to find kind of like agencies that have different translators with different domain knowledges, and they can really help you out to find those that you need for your app. Right? For the general support in your team, it's just general question support. Sorry, it's just general question support or complicated technical support as well. So at the moment we have two levels of support. Like first level, three actually. First level, like priority client support and technical. Now, what's important is to have folks who actually speak the language on that first tier, because then if they know English, then they can actually communicate with those folks on the, let's say, technical support tier. But it will be them who then actually get back to the customer and translate what those techies said. And they will need to translate it to a human language anyway, so it doesn't matter if they translate it from English to Spanish. So I think those are all questions I have here. If you have any questions, please shoot it at me. If not, I'll be happy to chat after the talk. All right.